The clay figure wanted to scrape off all the mud on its body because the mud had dirted the pristine white floor beneath its feet. But the mud quickly healed, and the floor became even dirtier. The clay figure, who had an obsession with cleanliness, tried to wipe off the mud on the floor. However, the more it wiped, the more mud seemed to appear. Looking at its dirty, muddy hands, the clay figure thought how wonderful it would be to have a pair of gloves, a bucket of water, and a rag. At that moment, a box suddenly popped out from the wall. The clay figure tiptoed and carefully walked over. To its surprise, there was exactly a pair of gloves, a bucket of water, and a rag inside. The clay figure took out the gloves and put them on. Now it could finally clean the room properly. It wiped the floor while stepping backward, cleaning up the footprints it had just made, but it was still standing on the floor. So the clay figure stepped on the rag with its feet, and finally, the floor was clean. But it had trapped itself on the rag, losing its freedom. Looking at its feet, the clay figure thought how nice it would be to have a pair of shoes. Unexpectedly, the next second, another box popped out from the wall. The clay figure wanted to go over and take a look. To avoid dirtying the floor, it moved forward bit by bit, stepping on the rag. But it lost its balance and fell to the ground. Now the floor was even dirtier. Looking at the messy floor, the clay figure felt extremely frustrated and decided to just move forward without caring. But to its surprise, the cabinet contained the shoes it wanted. The clay figure took out the shoes and put them on. Another box popped out from the wall. This time, it was a set of clothes. The clay figure put them on without hesitation. But when it tried to put on the pants, it accidentally put both legs into one pant leg. Losing its balance again, it fell to the ground and knocked over the bucket of water beside it. The clay figure couldn't understand why things were getting worse despite its efforts. It sat on the floor sadly. It angrily took off the clothes and threw them away. It hated itself for being covered in mud. It frantically tried to scrape off the mud, forgetting that it was a clay figure to begin with. The clay figure completely broke down. It grabbed a handful of mud and threw it with all its might, accidentally breaking through the wall. Curious, it walked over and saw a colorful world. There was another clay figure, but it was living happily. It didn't mind the mud on its body and even used it to add its own colors to the world. It turned out that living cautiously only made things more painful. So maybe by making peace with oneself, one could discover a different world and a different self.